I have never trusted New Year's Eve, not because I feared change, aging, or the tired illusion that a single midnight could cleanse an entire year of accumulated damage, but because some nights feel observant, as though time itself leans closer, curious to see what people are willing to surrender when they believe they are only celebrating. And every year as December weakened toward its final hours, I felt that same familiar pressure return, subtle at first, like a distant tension behind my eyes. Then heavier, more deliberate, until it settled into my thoughts and refused to loosen its grip, a reminder that forgetting is not forgiveness, only postponement. That night, the final night of the year, I found myself once again standing before the old house at the forest's edge, a structure abandoned so thoroughly that even stories had stopped circulating about it, a place erased from maps and memory alike, yet preserved perfectly in my mind as the origin point of everything I had lost without realizing it was being taken. Snow lay thick and uneven across the ground, swallowing sound, mooting distance, turning the forest into a vast, listening void, while far behind me the town glowed faintly through the trees, fireworks cracking in premature bursts, laughter drifting weakly through the cold air like something rehearsed rather than felt. And I understood then that celebration was merely a form of distraction, noise designed to mask quieter movements. I could not remember deciding to return to the house, only the sensation of having already chosen long ago, my body following instructions written into me before memory, my hand resting against the door as if it had always belonged there, the wood strangely warm beneath my palm, pulsing faintly, as though something inside recognized me. When I stepped inside, the house did not greet me with silence but with presence, an oppressive stillness thick with awareness, air heavy with the scent of old pine, dust, and something underneath that reminded me uncomfortably of breath drawn too close to the ear. There was no electricity, no heat, no sign of life, yet the decorations remained exactly as they had been left decades earlier, faded ribbons clinging stubbornly to railings, brittle garlands sagging under their own age, strands of Christmas lights tracing the walls like exposed veins, unlit but unmistakably alive in outline. And in the corner stood the artificial tree, its plastic needles bent and broken, its branches burdened by ornaments dulled by time, each reflective surface returning a distorted version of the room and of me, stretched and warped as if reality itself struggled to hold its shape there. The calendar still hung crookedly on the wall, yellowed pages intact, untouched by passing years, every single date preserved except the last, frozen eternally on December 31st, as though the house refused to acknowledge the arrival of a future it had no intention of allowing. When the door closed behind me without sound, without force, simply sealing as if it had never been open at all, I tested it only once, already aware of the futility, and panic crept in slowly, dulled by recognition, softened by the dangerous comfort of familiarity, because fear grows differently in places that once felt like home. It was in that fragile calm that the whispering began, not sudden, not violent, but intimate and layered, voices overlapping in no discernible pattern, fragments of wishes, resolutions, promises murmured at countless midnights by countless mouths convinced that intention alone could reshape reality. And beneath those voices ran a deeper tone, patient, amused, ancient. The sound of something that had listened to these words for far longer than human language had existed, and had never once been disappointed by the outcome. Beneath the tree lay the gifts, far more than memory could justify, wrapped in paper brown and cracking with age, each package misshapen, subtly strained as though its contents resisted containment, each emitting the faintest suggestion of movement, a restrained shifting that implied not objects but lives compressed into silence. I knew instinctively that they were not meant for me, that they were not rewards, not offerings of kindness, and yet my hands reached for them anyway, guided by a familiarity that made my stomach tighten. And when I lifted the smallest box, warmth pulsed against my palms in a slow, rhythmic pattern unmistakably alive. And behind me my own voice spoke my name, younger, uncertain, calling from a version of myself that should not have existed anymore. Memory crashed into me with disorienting force, not as images but as sensations, the sting of cold air through cracked windows, the soft glow of candles reflected in glass ornaments, the way my parents' laughter had sounded forced but determined during the storm that cut power and buried the world outside in snow, isolating us completely, and the knock at the door, precise and deliberate, arriving exactly 5 minutes before midnight. As though whoever waited understood the importance of timing in ways we never would. I remembered my father hesitating, hand hovering inches from the handle, my mother watching silently from the corner of the room, and me, too young to recognize wrongness, only thrilled by interruption, by the idea that something unexpected could happen on such a night. We never truly saw its face, only a shifting approximation of one, a form that suggested humanity without committing to it, a voice practiced in warmth but hollow beneath, offering blessings for the year ahead, prosperity, protection, fulfillment, asking in return for something small, something insignificant, something we would never miss. We agreed because people always agree when the price is undefined, because the unknown feels manageable when wrapped in promise. And that was the year my mother vanished, not violently, not suddenly, but completely, her belongings untouched, her photograph still smiling from the shelf, yet her existence slipping quietly from memory until grief itself felt inappropriate, like mourning a dream. The following year claimed my father. The year after that claimed my sense of time, my ability to remember the house as anything other than hollow. And by the 4th year I understood, too late, that the gifts were never meant to be opened, that they were containers rather than presents, and that each New Year's Eve required its due. Standing there now, decades later, the whispering swelled until it filled every corner of the room, and the thing began to assemble itself from shadow and absence, not walking forward but condensing into form, space bending subtly around it, ornaments trembling and cracking as though recoiling from its proximity, its mouth stretching into a smile far too wide, far too knowing, a smile shaped by centuries of repetition. It told me the debt remained unpaid, that time did not erase agreements, that every year people shed pieces of themselves believing they were moving forward, unaware that someone was collecting what they left behind. And as midnight approached, fireworks erupted outside, each explosion sending a tremor through the house, each burst shattering another ornament, loosening another memory, hollowing me further. I tried to speak, to refuse, to flee, but my voice dissolved into the chorus already filling the walls. And in that moment understanding settled heavily over me, that New Year's Eve was never about beginnings but about subtraction, a ritualized forgetting designed to distract, while something patient moved quietly through homes, listening, gathering what was willingly abandoned. The calendar page tore itself free as the clock struck 12, drifting to the floor like a final breath, and when I found myself standing outside once more, the house dark and silent behind me, I knew something essential had been taken, something I would never be able to name or miss properly. And as I walked back toward the lights and laughter of the town, passing families counting down together, hugging unaware, I caught faint reflections in windows and ornaments, glimpses of it moving from house to house. Unhurried, smiling because it had all the time in the world. And if you are listening to this story on New Year's Eve, if the seconds before midnight feel stretched and watched, if the night seems heavier than it should, then understand this. The choice is not whether something will be taken, only whether you will ever realize what it was, or whether you will simply celebrate and move on, lighter in ways you cannot explain.